Hey guys, I just wanted to do another quick video on Carter G. Woodson. And what brought him up for me today was he is actually the Google Doodle for today, because today is February the 1st, which is the start of Black History Month, which actually is really ridiculous to me, that they only set aside 1 month for that. But anywho, I won't get into that. However, while I was taking courses in college, I took, I took some in high school as well on this, but I took several courses on African American history because I absolutely love history, and I find it very interesting. So I took African American history before 1865 and African American history after 1865, I believe, in my last 2 years. Excuse me. And I'm familiar with Carter Godwin Woodson, because I live in Kentucky. You can hear my cat in the background. She is in heat once again, and I apologize for that. And I'm still recovering from pneumonia, so I apologize for coughing. But Carter G. Woodson I'm familiar with because he is affiliated with Berea College, and that is in Kentucky, and it's actually not far from my home. But I know a lot of people are not aware of Carter G. Woodson, so I went to Wikipedia because I figured it would give me something brief to kind of work from, an outline. So I'm going to read a little bit. Carter G. Woodson, he was born December the 19th, 1865, and he passed away on April the 3rd, 1950. He was an American historian, author, journalist, and the founder of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. He was one of the first scholars to study African American history. That's huge. A founder of the Journal of Negro History in 1916, Woodson has been cited as the father of Black history. In February 1926, he launched the celebration of Negro History Week, the precursor of Black History Month. So, before Black History Month, they had only set aside a week for Black history, and it was called Negro History Week. And he actually started that. So that is really huge. And that was in 1926. So that really, it was huge for that time. Here's a picture of him. And he was born in New Canton, Virginia. And he passed away in Washington, D.C. at the age of 74. It says education, Berea College, University of Chicago, Harvard University. His occupation, he was an historian and loved Black history, as he should have. He's known for the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, Negro History Week, which we just talked about, and the Journal of Negro History. He was born actually in Buckingham County, Virginia, the son of former slaves James and Eliza Riddle Woodson. His father helped Union soldiers during the Civil War and moved his family to West Virginia when he heard that Huntington was building a high school for blacks. Just his story is amazing. Coming from a large poor family, Carter Woodson could not regularly attend school. Through self-instruction, he mastered the fundamentals of common school subjects by the age of 17. Wanting more education, he went to Fayette County to earn a living as a miner in the coal fields and was able to devote only a few months each year to his schooling. In 1895, at the age of 20, Woodson entered Douglas High School, where he received his diploma in less than 2 years. From 1897 to 1900, Woodson taught at Winona in Fayette County. In 1900, he was selected as the principal of Douglas High School. He earned his Bachelor's of Literature degree from Berea College in Kentucky in 1903 by taking classes part-time between 1901 and 1903. From 1903 to 1907, Woodson was a school supervisor in the Philippines. He later attended the University of Chicago, where he was awarded an AB and AM in 1908. He was a member of the first black professional fraternity, Sigma Pi Phi, and a member of Omega Psi Phi. He completed his PhD in history at Harvard in 1912, where he was the second African American after W.E.B. Du Bois to earn a doctorate. That is so big. His doctoral dissertation, The Disruption of Virginia, was based on research he did at the Library of Congress while teaching high school in Washington, D.C. After earning the doctoral degree, he continued teaching in public schools, later joining the faculty at Howard University as a professor and served there as Dean of College of Arts and Sciences. Talks about his career. He was convinced that the role of his own people in American history and in the history of other cultures was being ignored or misrepresented among scholars, and he realized the need for research into the neglected past of African Americans. Along with Alex L. Jackson and 3 associates, he founded the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History on September the 9th, 1915 in Chicago. That was the year Woodson published The Education of the Negro prior to 1861. His other books followed, A Century of Negro Migration in 1918, and The History of the Negro Church in 1927. His work, The Negro in Our History, has been reprinted in numerous editions and was revised by Charles H. Wesley after Woodson's death in 1950. He began publication of the scholarly Journal of Negro History. It has never missed an issue despite the Great Depression, loss of support from foundations, and 2 world wars. In 2012, it was renamed the Journal of African American History and continues to be published by the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. He stayed at the Wabash Avenue YMCA during visits to Chicago. His experiences at the Y and in the surrounding Bronzeville neighborhood inspired him to create the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History in 1915. The Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, now the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, which ran conferences, published the Journal of Negro History, and particularly targeted those responsible for the education of black children. He believed that education, increasing social and professional contacts among blacks and whites could reduce racism, and he promoted the organized study of African American history partly for that purpose. He later promoted the first Negro History Week in Washington, D.C. in 1926. He was the forerunner of Black History Month. It was the forerunner of Black History Month. The Bronzeville neighborhood, which is where he stayed when he was staying at the Y, it declined during the late 1960s and 70s like many other inner city neighborhoods across the country, and was forced to close during the 1970s, but was restored in 1992 by the Renaissance Collaborative. He served as Associate Dean of the West Virginia Collegiate Institute, which is currently the West Virginia State University, and he studied many aspects of African American history. He published the first survey of free black slave owners in the United States in 1830. That is huge. And I absolutely love this quote. If you can control a man's thinking, you don't have to worry about his actions. If you can determine what a man thinks, you do not have to worry about what he will do. If you can make a man believe that he is inferior, you don't have to compel him to seek an inferior status. He will do so without being told. And if you can make a man believe that he is justly an outcast, you don't have to order him to the back door. He will go to the back door on his own, and if there is no back door, the very nature of the man will demand that you build one. Love that. He became affiliated with the NAACP in Washington, D.C., and he wrote a letter to them on January 28, 1915, expressing his dissatisfaction with their activities, and he made 2 proposals. That the branch secure an office for a center to which persons may report whatever concerns the black race may have, and from which the association may extend its operations into every part of the city, and that a canvasser be appointed to enlist members and obtain subscriptions for the crisis, which was the NAACP magazine edited by W.E.B. Du Bois. Huge, huge, huge. In that, he replied back to them on March the 18th, 1915, and Woodson wrote, "I am not afraid of being sued by white businessmen. In fact, I should welcome such a lawsuit. It would do the cause much good. Let us banish fear. We have been in this mental state for 3 centuries. I am a radical. I am ready to act if I can find brave men to help me." Sorry, I'm scanning through this. Wanted to get into his death. He died suddenly from a heart attack in the office within his home in the Shaw neighborhood of Washington, D.C. on April the 3rd, 1950, at the age of 74. He is buried at Lincoln Memorial Cemetery in Suitland, Maryland. The time that schools have set aside each year to focus on African American history is Woodson's most visible legacy, and that is so huge. Even though it's so irritating to only have the 1 month set aside, his 1 week that he accomplished was huge. His determination to further the recognition of the Negro in American and world history, however, inspired countless other scholars. He remained focused on his work throughout his life. Many see him as a man of vision and understanding. Although Woodson was among the ranks of the educated few, he did not feel particularly sentimental about elite educational institutions. It's really interesting. I thought this was kind of comical. Dorothy Porter Wesley recalled, Woodson would wrap up his publications, take them to the post office, and have dinner at the YMCA. He would teasingly decline her dinner invitations, saying, quote, "No, you are trying to marry me off. I am married to my work," end quote. His most cherished ambition, a 6-volume Encyclopedia Africana, lay incomplete at the time of his death. He received numerous honors and tributes, and the post office actually issued a 20-cent stamp honoring him in 1984. In 1926, he received the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People Spingarn Medal. In 1992, the Library of Congress held an exhibition entitled Moving Back Barriers, The Legacy of Carter G. Woodson, and he donated his collection of 5,000 items from the 18th, 19th, and 20th centuries to the library. And his Washington, D.C. home has been preserved and designated the Carter G. Woodson Home National Historic Site, which, if I'm not mistaken, is actually ran by the National Parks Service, so that's great. In 2002, scholar Molefi Keti Asante, and I may have messed that name up and I apologize, named Carter G. Woodson on the list of 100 greatest African Americans. And then, of course, today he was honored with a Google Doodle. So that's huge. And he has tons of places named after him. Schools in California, several places in Florida, school in Georgia, several places in Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Minnesota, New York, North Carolina, Texas, Virginia, and Washington, D.C., and West Virginia. So that's just a little bit of education for you today. It's always good to educate yourself. I am all about it. So I'm glad I could share that with you. And I hope to have some more stuff for you guys. Thank you.